Today we are going to explain a supernatural fantasy science fiction movie called Fantasy Island. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The film begins with the scene of a girl being chased in the woods. She enters a home and tries to call for help. She tells the person on the other line that she's been kidnapped and that she needs a way out. Sadly, the man on the other side of the phone is her kidnapper. He tells her everything is going to be fine. Soon, his men arrive and drag the girl away mercilessly. A nameplate of someone named Rourke is shown on the table. The scene then shifts to a group of 5 friends that have won tickets to Fantasy Island in some competition. They get a private jet ride straight to the island where they are greeted by an assistant of Mr. Rourke. She takes the group straight to Mr. Rourke's house where they are greeted by the man himself. Mr. Rourke tells the group about the specialty of this island. He informs them that the island is called the Fantasy Island because it turns people's fantasies into real life. Rourke is clueless about the science behind it, but he guarantees the fantasies to be fulfilled. Though only one fantasy can be fulfilled. This brings the scenes to the group's first 2 boys, Brax and JD. The 2 boys tells Rourke that they fantasize about partying and seeking the endless pleasure of adultery. Rourke drops the boys at an unknown place where they have the time of their life, just as they fantasized. Meanwhile, the 3rd and 4th members of the group share their fantasies. Patrick shares that he always wanted to be a soldier, but his mother never approved of it and helped him become a cop instead. He further adds that he doesn't like being a cop, so he has resigned from his job before coming to the island. Melanie shares some dark moments from her past when she was bullied and ragged by a girl named Madison. Madison drove her so insane that people around her started to think she was a psycho case. Even her mother thought that she needed mental help. Her mother would take her to a psychiatrist who was a chatterbox. His nonstop talking was nothing less than torture. Melanie says that if fantasies come true on this island, she would want to torture Madison and take revenge on her. Rourke shows up and takes Melanie to a place where he has tied up Madison in a glass cage. Madison turns out to be the kidnapped girl that was shown at the beginning of the film. Rourke leaves Melanie in charge of all the control buttons. At first, Melanie pushes some buttons that electrocute Madison and torture her, but soon Melanie realizes that this is not a fantasy and everything that's been happening to Madison is real. She freaks out and stops the torture, but a doctor shows up with his medical equipment and starts torturing Madison to appeal to Melanie. Disgusted by the doctor, Melanie screams and asks for the torture to be stopped. The doctor comes near the glass and takes off his mask to reveal that he's the psychiatrist that used to bore her with his chattering mouth. Only this time, the difference is that his mouth is sewn shut, which scares Melanie. She comes up with a plan and tells the doctor to go near Madison to chop off her index finger. The doctor obliges and gets closer to Madison. Melanie immediately pushes some buttons and electrocutes the doctor. He gets knocked out, which allows Melanie to break the glass with some heavy equipment and free Madison. She takes Madison and gets out from a secret back door that opens in the woods. On the other hand, Patrick is taken deep into the woods by Rourke. He gives him the uniform of a soldier with a bag of necessities and leaves him to survive on his own. Soon, a group of fully geared fugitives shows up and takes Patrick to their commander. Patrick gets to talk to the commander, who wishes to see Patrick's paperwork. The commander is left shocked to see Patrick's last name being his name. Both become confused when they find out that they're father's son. Patrick shares that his father passed away 27 years ago when he was sent on an operation in Venezuela. The father says that it has been only 11 months since he left home for the army and is now being posted to Venezuela tomorrow. According to Patrick's fantasy, he has been united with his father the day before he died. His father chickens out to hear that he's going to die, so he decides to make his way back home. Patrick stops him and tells him how he earned the title of being the courageous one by throwing himself at a grenade to save his group and died an honorable death. He encourages his father to not quit and be brave like he was before meeting him. Meanwhile, Rourke goes back to his office and has the last member of the group over to his office. He asks Gwen about her desire, to which she responds that she loved a man whom she wanted to make a family with, but she panicked and said no when her lover proposed for marriage. She says she had her reasons to deny the proposal. She was depressed and couldn't take the right decision at that time. Rourke takes her to a place where he opens the door to the exact place where she rejected her proposal. According to her wish, she is getting a second chance at making things up so she doesn't end up regretting it for the rest of her life. She sits with her man and exchanges a few words. The man proposes to her. She becomes horrified and comes out to ask Rourke what he had done to her. He reminds her about the specialty of the Fantasy Island. She goes back in and accepts the proposal. She cherishes the moment and takes her now husband. When she wakes up the next morning, she finds herself alone. She goes back to Rourke and claims that everything was only a dream and that her fantasy didn't come to life. Rourke shows her the pictures of her giving birth to a baby girl that were taken from her phone. She becomes confused when the memories of her giving birth start refreshing up in her mind. Rourke then tells his story of how he ended up on this island. He states that he didn't believe that such an island existed. He became curious and looked for this island for years. While exploring, his wife died. When he finally found the island, he wished to have his wife back. He says that he's stuck on this island because as long as he stays here, he gets to spend time with his wife, likewise Gwen, and her new family. On the other hand, Brax and JD are visited by their home's landlord while they're partying with a bunch of girls. The landlord turns out to be a drug dealer and opens fire. His men also show up with scary Joker masks and start shooting at the boys. The boys run for their lives and reach a place where they call Rourke to discuss the angry man who was not a part of their fantasy. Rourke laughs and says that he must be the landlord. He warns the boys to must fulfill their fantasy and tells them to never back out no matter what happens. The crazy landlord and his people show up and capture the boys. He asks the boys for his money, but they have no idea about his money. They tell the lunatic that he isn't a part of their fantasy, so he should stop bothering them. The landlord smirks and adds that perhaps they are in his fantasy. He then takes JD's arms and is about to chop his hand off, but they yell and get him to stop. Brax lies about the money being downstairs and splits the lunatics into two teams. The landlord and some of his men stay with JD while the others go down with Brax. Soon, Patrick shows up with his father and other fugitives. Brax is shocked and asks Patrick what he's doing in his fantasy world. It is then opened that Patrick and his father are on an operation in Venezuela where they have to take down some dangerous drug dealers to whom JD and Brax owe some kind of money. Their fantasies are somehow connected. The army guys start shooting the drug dealers and also manage to free JD from them, but in the end, the drug dealers shoot the fugitives. As they're about to shoot Patrick, his father takes the bullets and gives his son the chance to run away. Patrick takes JD and Brax and runs away from there. Meanwhile, Melanie and Madison are wandering in the woods, looking for an escape. The torturing doctor shows up and attacks Madison. He chokes her against the tree. Melanie attempts to push the doctor away, but he doesn't flinch a muscle. Thankfully, a strange man shows up from behind and kills the doctor. The old man then leads the girls into a cave where Madison sees her fantasy of her being united with her husband inside the stone that's studded in tree branches. Melanie creeps out and asks the old man what kind of place this is and what's his part to play here. The old man states that he's an investigator who was sent to this island by a rich client who paid him a huge amount. He was sent to investigate the mystery of this island. At first, he enjoyed the island because his fantasies started becoming real and he got his dead daughter back. Soon, everything became cursed and the worst things started happening to him. He wanted to go out or call his clients for a report, but Rourke broke his phone so that the secrets of this island stay within the island. He claims that Rourke is not the man they think he is. He is purely evil and he doesn't care if someone dies or suffers. He then reveals that there is a tube well under the giant stone. When the water touches the stone, it becomes black and anyone who drinks it gets to live their fantasy. Rourke had the entire group drink that water in the beginning. Therefore, the old man plans for an escape and gives them the number of a pilot whom they can contact from their hotel and exit from the island. He also packs a bottle of that black water for proof. When they come out, the torturing doctor attacks them again. The old man saves the girl by pushing the doctor off a cliff, but he falls with him as well. Melanie remembers that back in the torture cell, she saw a landline that was directly linked to Madison's husband's landline. They go back to the torture cell and call Madison's husband. They give him the pilot's number and beg to send help. Meanwhile, Gwen realizes that her new family is nothing more than a dream and comes back to Rourke to get her fantasy changed. She requests to relive the time when she accidentally started a fire in her building while cooking and got her neighbor Nick killed in the incident. She wants to save him. Rourke doesn't agree, but she convinces him and reappears in the moment when the building was caught on fire. There she sees Brax and JD running down the stairs. She goes into Nick's apartment to save him but faints instead. Rourke's wife shows up and pushes her out of there. Downstairs, she sees Patrick as a police officer who's doing nothing about the situation. She comes back to Rourke and confronts what she has observed. She thinks that the entire group is not getting to live their fantasy. They are only fulfilling a role in Rourke's fantasy because Nick was his son. Brax and JD were his classmates and she was his neighbor. No one could save Nick due to which he wants to take revenge. However, a question is raised about Melanie since Gwen didn't see her in the incident. Melanie reveals that she was asked out by Nick that night and she rejected him because she was overwhelmed. Rourke tells them they cannot escape their fantasy and that they're stuck here forever. Thankfully, the pilot shows up. Everyone runs toward the plane, but Rourke sends his men after and gets the helicopter exploded with a missile. The group is forced to visit the same cave that was shown to the girls by the old man. There, Patrick hits one of Rourke's men and throws him into the well. Melanie shows up and stabs Patrick. Here, the truth is revealed that everyone is playing a part in Melanie's fantasy. Since Nick was her only lover, she couldn't bear his death, so she decided to take revenge on everyone present near Nick before dying. On the other side, Rourke's wife insists on letting the guests go since they are all innocent. Rourke turns good and shows up at the cave to stop Melanie. Things turn around when Madison drinks the black water from the bottle and wishes for Melanie to be united with Nick in his afterlife. Nick's dead body comes out of the well and drags Melanie with him. With this, all of the evil men with guns turn into vapor and Melanie's fantasy is put to an end. Melanie still manages to come out one last time and throw a grenade at them. Patrick, just like his father, jumps on the grenade and dies saving his friends. Rourke puts his photo on the softboard and honors his death. Now, a new plane ride is arranged for the group so they can leave. Brack stops and wishes Rourke to unite him with his brother JD who died on the island. Rourke warns him and says if he wants to turn his fantasy into reality and meet his brother, he will get stuck on the island forever. Rourke fulfills his fantasy. The film ends with a betrayal when JD is seen waving Brax from inside the plane, leaving Brax trapped on the island with Rourke forever. Subscribe to see more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.